Resentment is like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die. These words, often attributed to the Stoic philosopher Seneca, cut straight to the heart of a struggle so many of us face but rarely confront. Think about it. How often do we hold onto anger, bitterness, or grudges, thinking we're punishing someone else, only to realize it's eating away at our own peace? Marcus Aurelius, another pillar of Stoic wisdom, put it plainly: you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. These ancient voices remind us that resentment isn't just an emotion. It's a choice, one that we can unlearn, and that's exactly what this video is about. Today, we're diving into 26 transformative Stoic approaches to release resentment and reclaim the inner peace you deserve. These aren't abstract ideas. They're practical, actionable tools designed to help you navigate the challenges of modern life with the clarity and calm of a Stoic. Whether you're wrestling with a recent betrayal or carrying the weight of an old grudge, these principles will guide you toward freedom, not just from the past, but from the patterns that keep you stuck. Let's begin this journey together, one step at a time. What can you truly control in life? Think about it for a moment. Most of us spend so much energy trying to change things outside of ourselves, what others say, how they act, or even the circumstances we find ourselves in. But the Stoics had a profound insight. The only thing we truly have power over is our own mind and how we respond to the world around us. This is what they called the Dichotomy of Control, and it's one of the most liberating ideas in Stoic philosophy. Epictetus, the great Stoic teacher, put it simply: some things are within our power while others are not. When we focus our energy on what we can control, our thoughts, actions, and reactions, we free ourselves from the endless frustration of trying to change what we cannot. Take resentment, for example. It's easy to feel wronged when someone treats us unfairly, like a coworker who snaps at us or a friend who lets us down. But here's the truth: their behavior is outside our control. What we can control is how we choose to respond. Do we let their actions dictate our emotions, or do we take a step back and decide how we want to feel? This doesn't mean we ignore the situation or pretend it doesn't hurt. It means we reclaim our power by focusing on our own inner world, our perspective, our values, and the choices we make moving forward. So, the next time you feel resentment bubbling up, pause and ask yourself, is this something I can control, or is it outside my influence? By shifting your focus to your own reactions, you take the first step toward releasing the grip of resentment and finding peace within. It's not about changing others, it's about changing how you relate to the world. Resentment often comes from how we interpret events. It's not the event itself that hurts us, but the meaning we attach to it. The Stoics understood this deeply, and they developed a powerful tool to help us shift our perspective: cognitive reframing. At its core, this practice is about taking a step back and asking, what's another way to look at this? Seneca once wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." What he's pointing to here is the power of our minds to either amplify our pain or transform it into something meaningful. By reframing our thoughts, we can turn resentment into an opportunity for growth. Let's bring this to life with an example. Imagine someone you trusted betrays you, a friend who shares a secret you asked them to keep, or a partner who breaks a promise. It's natural to feel hurt, even angry, but instead of letting that resentment take root, what if you asked yourself, what can I learn from this? Maybe the betrayal teaches you about the importance of setting clearer boundaries or choosing who you trust more carefully. It doesn't excuse the other person's behavior, but it empowers you to grow from the experience. That's the essence of cognitive reframing. It's not about denying your pain, but about finding a way to use it as a stepping stone rather than a stumbling block. So here's a challenge for you. Think about a recent situation where you felt wronged or resentful. Instead of replaying the hurt in your mind, try asking, what's another way to see this? What can I take away from this experience? This simple shift in perspective can be the key to unlocking a calmer, more resilient mindset. Remember, it's not the event that defines you, it's how you choose to respond to it. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, began each day with a simple yet profound practice. He wrote down what he was grateful for. In his personal writings, later known as meditations, he often reflected on the people and experiences that enriched his life, even amidst the chaos of ruling an empire. He once wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." This practice wasn't just about counting blessings. It was a deliberate act of shifting his focus away from what was lacking or troubling and toward what was already present and good. For Marcus, gratitude was a shield against resentment, a way to ground himself in the abundance of life rather than the sting of its challenges. Gratitude has a unique power to reframe our perspective. When we're caught in the grip of resentment, it's easy to fixate on what's gone wrong or what we feel we've lost. But by intentionally focusing on what we do have, whether it's a supportive friend, a moment of quiet, or even the simple pleasure of a warm cup of tea, we create a mental shift. Resentment thrives on scarcity, but gratitude reminds us of abundance. It doesn't erase the pain of being wronged, but it helps us see that pain isn't the whole story. One modern way to practice this is by keeping a gratitude journal. It doesn't have to be elaborate, just a few minutes each day to jot down 3 things you're thankful for. Maybe it's the kindness of a stranger, a lesson learned from a tough situation, or even the beauty of a sunset. Over time, this habit trains your mind to notice the good, even in difficult moments. And here's the beautiful part: the more you practice gratitude, the less room there is for resentment to take hold. It's not about ignoring your feelings, it's about balancing them with a wider perspective. So let's pause for a moment. Think about today. What are 3 things you're grateful for right now? They don't have to be grand or life-changing. Sometimes it's the small, quiet moments that hold the most meaning. By naming them, you're taking a step toward reclaiming your peace, not by denying the challenges, but by acknowledging the light that exists alongside them. How often do you catch yourself dwelling on past grievances, replaying them in your mind like a broken record? It's a common human tendency to hold onto slights, betrayals, or injustices long after they've happened. But the Stoics offer a powerful counterpoint to this habit, the idea of impermanence. Everything in life, including our emotions, is transient. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher, put it this way: remember that you are an actor in a play, and the play will go on, whether you choose to play your part well or poorly. What he's pointing to here is the fleeting nature of life itself. The things we cling to, our grudges, our resentments, are no more permanent than the clouds in the sky. They drift in, they linger for a while, and then they pass. Think about a grudge you've held onto. Maybe it was a harsh word from a colleague or a misunderstanding with a loved one. At the time, it felt monumental, like it would define your relationship forever. But here's the truth: time changes everything. The sting of that moment fades, even if the memory remains. The Stoics remind us that by clinging to resentment, we're holding onto something that's already slipping away. It's like trying to grasp water in your hands. The tighter you hold, the more it slips through your fingers. Here's an example to bring this to life. Imagine someone cuts you off in traffic. In the heat of the moment, you might feel a surge of anger, maybe even mutter a few choice words under your breath. But an hour later, or even a day later, how much does that moment really matter? The person who cut you off is long gone, and the incident is just a blip in your day. The Stoic approach is to recognize this impermanence not just in minor annoyances, but in the bigger, more painful grievances too. By seeing resentment as something temporary, something that will naturally dissolve with time, we can begin to release its hold on us. So take a moment to reflect. What resentments are you carrying that feel heavy today? How might they look a month from now or a year? By embracing the Stoic idea of impermanence, you're not dismissing your pain, you're simply choosing not to let it define you. Life is too short to be weighed down by what's already passing. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting, it means freeing yourself to move forward unburdened. Forgiveness is not weakness, it's strength. It's the quiet courage to let go of the pain someone else caused you, not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace. The Stoics understood this better than most. Seneca, one of the great Stoic thinkers, wrote, "The wise man is neither raised up by prosperity nor cast down by adversity, for he has always endeavored to rely chiefly upon himself and to derive all joy from himself." What he's pointing to here is the inner resilience that forgiveness cultivates. It's not about excusing someone's actions or pretending they didn't hurt you. It's about reclaiming your power by refusing to let their behavior dictate your emotional state. Seneca himself faced betrayal, most notably from the Roman Emperor Nero, who turned against him despite Seneca's years of mentorship and loyalty. Yet, even in the face of such profound injustice, Seneca chose to focus on his own inner strength rather than dwell on the betrayal. He didn't forgive Nero because Nero deserved it. He forgave because holding onto resentment would only poison his own soul. This is the Stoic perspective on forgiveness. It's a gift you give yourself, a way to free yourself from the weight of anger and bitterness. So, let's bring this closer to home. Is there someone in your life you need to forgive? Maybe it's a friend who let you down, a family member who said something hurtful, or even yourself for a mistake you can't seem to move past. Take a moment to consider why forgiveness might be the next step toward your own peace. It doesn't mean you have to forget or reconcile with the person who hurt you. It simply means you're choosing to release the hold that resentment has on your heart. Forgiveness, in the Stoic sense, is an act of self-liberation. It's saying, I won't let this define me anymore. And that's not weakness, it's the ultimate strength. It's choosing to rise above the pain and reclaim your inner peace, no matter what others have done. So, who will you choose to forgive today? And more importantly, what will you gain by letting go? How much of your resentment comes from unmet expectations? It's a question worth sitting with for a moment. So often, we tie our happiness and sense of self-worth to specific outcomes, getting that promotion, receiving recognition, or even expecting others to act a certain way. But the Stoics offer a different approach, detach from the outcome and focus instead on your effort. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this and you will find strength. What he's pointing to here is the freedom that comes when we stop trying to control what's beyond our reach and instead pour our energy into what we can control, our actions, our intentions, and our attitude. Let's take a practical example. Imagine you've worked tirelessly for months, putting in extra hours and going above and beyond at work. You're convinced you've earned that promotion, but when the announcement comes, your name isn't on the list. It's natural to feel disappointment, maybe even resentment toward your boss or the company. But here's the Stoic perspective. The promotion was never within your control. What was within your control was the effort you put in, the skills you developed, and the way you showed up each day. By focusing on what you did rather than what you didn't get, you reclaim your power. You can't control the outcome, but you can control how you respond to it. This practice of detachment doesn't mean you stop caring or striving. It means you stop letting external results define your worth. It's about shifting your focus from "did I get what I wanted" to "did I do my best?" When you make that shift, resentment loses its grip. You're no longer at the mercy of circumstances. You're anchored in your own effort and integrity. So here's a challenge for you. Think about a situation where you felt resentful because things didn't go as planned. Maybe it was a project that didn't succeed, a relationship that didn't work out, or a goal you didn't achieve. Now ask yourself, did I do my best? What did I learn from the process? By focusing on your effort rather than the outcome, you're not just letting go of resentment, you're building a stronger, more resilient version of yourself. And that's a victory no external result can take away. Resentment thrives in the past, presence frees you. It's a simple yet profound truth that the Stoics understood deeply. They believed that much of our suffering comes from dwelling on what has already happened, reliving old wounds, replaying arguments, or imagining how things should have been. But the present moment, that's where life happens. That's where we can choose to let go of the weight of the past and step into the freedom of now. Epictetus, one of the most influential Stoic teachers, put it this way: do not seek to have events happen as you want them to, but instead want them to happen as they do happen, and your life will go well. What he's pointing to here is the power of acceptance, not resignation, but a conscious choice to embrace the present exactly as it is. Think about it. When you're fully present, there's no room for resentment. You're not replaying yesterday's argument or worrying about tomorrow's meeting. You're here now, engaged in the moment. This doesn't mean you ignore the past or forget its lessons. It means you refuse to let it hold you hostage. The Stoics weren't just philosophers, they were practical thinkers. They knew that presence wasn't just a lofty ideal, it was a skill to be practiced, like mindfulness in modern terms. Here's a simple way to start. Take 5 minutes today to practice being fully present. It could be while you're sipping your morning coffee, walking through your neighborhood, or even sitting at your desk. Pay attention to the details, the warmth of the cup in your hands, the sound of birds outside, or the rhythm of your breath. When your mind starts to wander, and it will, gently bring it back to the present. This isn't about emptying your mind or achieving some perfect state of calm. It's about training yourself to notice where you are, right here, right now. The beauty of this practice is that it doesn't just reduce resentment, it enriches your entire experience of life. When you're present, you notice the small joys you might otherwise overlook, the smile of a stranger, the color of the sky, the taste of your favorite meal. Presence isn't just a tool for letting go, it's a doorway to living more fully. So, where will you choose to be present today? The past is behind you and the future isn't here yet. All you have is this moment. What will you do with it? Why do we expect others to be perfect? It's a question worth sitting with, because so much of our resentment stems from this unrealistic expectation. We hold people, friends, family, co-workers, to impossibly high standards, and when they inevitably fall short, we feel hurt, disappointed, or even betrayed. But here's the truth: humans are flawed, every single one of us. The Stoics understood this deeply, and they saw it as a fundamental truth to embrace, not resist. Seneca, one of the great Stoic thinkers, put it plainly: to expect perfect behavior from imperfect beings is the height of folly. What he's pointing to here is the simple yet profound idea that we're all works in progress. When we accept this, we free ourselves from the constant cycle of disappointment and resentment. Let's bring this to life with an example. Imagine a close friend forgets your birthday. It stings, doesn't it? You might feel overlooked or undervalued. But before that resentment takes root, pause and consider: is this friend usually forgetful? Are they juggling a lot right now? Work, family, personal struggles. The truth is, their oversight likely says more about their own challenges than it does about their feelings for you. By accepting their imperfection, their humanity, you can shift from feeling hurt to feeling compassion. It doesn't mean you ignore your feelings or let others off the hook for harmful behavior. It simply means you stop expecting them to be something they're not. This principle extends beyond personal relationships. Think about the coworker who snaps at you in a stressful moment or the stranger who cut you off in traffic. These moments are frustrating, yes, but they're also reminders that everyone is fighting their own battles. The Stoic approach is to see these flaws not as personal attacks, but as opportunities to practice understanding and patience. It's about lowering the bar of expectation, not because people don't matter, but because expecting perfection only sets us up for pain. So here's a challenge for you. Think about someone who's recently let you down. Instead of focusing on what they did wrong, try to see their actions through the lens of their humanity. What might they be struggling with? How can you extend the same grace to them that you'd want extended to you? By accepting the imperfections in others, we not only reduce our own resentment, we also create space for deeper, more authentic connections. After all, isn't that what we all truly want? Empathy dissolves resentment. It's a bold statement, but one that holds profound truth, especially when viewed through the lens of Stoicism. The Stoics, often misunderstood as detached or emotionless, actually placed great value on understanding others. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, wrote, "When someone does you wrong, immediately consider what belief led them to it. For when you understand that, you'll feel compassion rather than anger or resentment." This isn't just a lofty ideal, it's a practical tool for transforming how we relate to those who hurt us. Empathy, in the Stoic sense, is about seeing others not as villains or enemies, but as imperfect beings shaped by their own struggles, fears, and beliefs. Let's take this idea into a real-life scenario. Imagine you have a family member who always seems to criticize or belittle you. It's easy to feel hurt, to build up resentment over time. But what if, instead of reacting defensively, you pause to consider what might be driving their behavior? Maybe they're projecting their own insecurities, or perhaps they're carrying unresolved pain from their past. This doesn't excuse their actions, but it does offer a new perspective. When we see others through the lens of empathy, we're not just understanding them, we're freeing ourselves from the weight of resentment. So here's a challenge for you. Think about a situation where you felt wronged or hurt. Instead of focusing on how their actions affected you, try to step into their shoes for a moment. What might they be going through? What fears or beliefs could be shaping their behavior? This shift doesn't mean you condone what they did, but it can help you see them as human rather than as a source of pain. Empathy doesn't erase the hurt, but it does create space for healing and understanding. Empathy, in the Stoic tradition, is a bridge not just to others, but to our own peace. It's a reminder that everyone is fighting a battle we know nothing about. By choosing to see others with compassion, we're not just easing their burden, we're lightening our own. So, the next time resentment begins to take root, ask yourself, how might empathy change the way I see this situation? The answer might just surprise you. How much of your resentment is tied to your ego? It's a question that might make you pause, and that's exactly the point. The Stoics believed that much of our emotional suffering, especially resentment, stems from an inflated sense of self. When we take things personally, when we feel slighted or overlooked, it's often because our ego has taken center stage. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher, put it bluntly, it is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows. In other words, when we're too attached to our own importance, we close ourselves off to growth and invite unnecessary pain. Letting go of ego, then, isn't about diminishing yourself. It's about freeing yourself from the need to always be right, to always be seen, or to always win. Consider this example. Imagine you've poured your heart into a project at work, only to have a colleague point out flaws in your approach. If your ego is in charge, you might feel attacked, defensive, or resentful. But what if you could step back and see their feedback not as a personal insult, but as an opportunity to improve? The Stoic approach is to detach from the need for validation and focus instead on what's useful. Criticism, after all, isn't about you, it's about the work. By releasing your grip on ego, you can transform resentment into a tool for growth. Here's another way to think about it. The ego thrives on comparison, measuring yourself against others, feeling superior or inferior based on external markers of success. But the Stoics remind us that true worth comes from within, from living in alignment with your values, not from how you stack up against someone else. When you let go of the need to compete or prove yourself, you take a huge step toward releasing resentment. It's not about denying your feelings, it's about recognizing that they're often rooted in something deeper, a need to protect or elevate your sense of self. So take a moment to reflect. Where does your ego show up in your resentments? Are you holding onto anger because someone didn't acknowledge your efforts or because they challenged your ideas? By asking these questions, you're not just addressing the surface-level emotions, you're uncovering the deeper patterns that keep you stuck. Letting go of ego isn't easy, but it's one of the most liberating choices you can make. And when you do, you'll find that peace isn't something you have to fight for, it's something you can choose moment by moment. Self-reflection is the key to releasing resentment. It's not just a nice idea, it's a practice the Stoics relied on to untangle their emotions and gain clarity. Seneca, one of the greatest Stoic thinkers, once wrote, "Each day, I examine myself and I hold myself accountable for my thoughts and actions." This wasn't just a philosophical exercise, it was a daily habit, a way to step back and see the bigger picture. Journaling for the Stoics was a tool for self-awareness, a way to process feelings like resentment before they could take root and grow. In today's fast-paced world, it's easy to let emotions like resentment simmer beneath the surface. We get busy, distracted, and before we know it, those feelings have hardened into grudges. But here's the thing, self-reflection doesn't have to be complicated. It can be as simple as setting aside 5 minutes at the end of the day to write down your thoughts. Maybe it's a few sentences about what upset you, why it bothered you, and how you responded. The act of putting it into words helps you see the situation more clearly, almost like stepping outside of yourself for a moment. Let's say you had a disagreement with a coworker. Instead of replaying the argument in your mind, you sit down with a journal and write about it. As you do, you might notice patterns. Maybe you were quick to take offense, or perhaps you realized the other person was under a lot of stress. This isn't about blaming yourself or excusing their behavior. It's about understanding what happened and how you can move forward. That's the power of self-reflection. It turns resentment into insight. So here's a challenge for you. Tonight, take 5 minutes to reflect on a recent situation where you felt resentful. Write down what happened, how it made you feel, and what you can learn from it. You don't need to solve anything or come to a grand conclusion. Just let the act of writing help you process and release what's been weighing on your mind. When you make self-reflection a habit, you're not just letting go of resentment. You're building a stronger, more resilient version of yourself, and that's a gift only you can give. What would a virtuous person do in this situation? It's a question that cuts to the heart of Stoic philosophy, and one that can completely shift how we approach life's challenges. For the Stoics, virtue wasn't just a lofty ideal, it was the foundation of a meaningful life. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, put it this way: waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. His words remind us that virtue isn't about perfection or abstract debates, it's about action. It's about how we show up in the world, especially when things don't go our way. And when it comes to releasing resentment, focusing on virtue can be a game changer. Think about it. Resentment often pulls us toward anger, bitterness, or the desire to retaliate. But what if, instead of reacting to the pain, we asked ourselves, what would a virtuous person do here? Virtue, in the Stoic sense, is about embodying qualities like wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance even when it's hard. It's about choosing kindness over anger, understanding over judgment, and integrity over revenge. These choices aren't always easy, but they're always within our power. Here's an example to bring this to life. Imagine someone cuts you off in traffic. Your first instinct might be to honk, yell, or even chase after them. But what if instead you paused and asked, what would a virtuous person do? Maybe they'd take a deep breath, remind themselves that everyone makes mistakes, and let it go. It's not about being a pushover. It's about choosing the kind of person you want to be, regardless of what someone else does. That's the power of virtue. It's a compass that guides us toward our best selves, even in the heat of the moment. So here's a challenge for you. The next time you feel resentment creeping in, take a moment to reflect. What would a virtuous person do in this situation? It's not about ignoring your feelings or pretending everything is fine. It's about rising above the immediate reaction and choosing a response that aligns with your values. When you focus on virtue, you're not just letting go of resentment, you're building a life grounded in purpose and integrity. And that's a choice you'll never regret. Attachment breeds resentment, non-attachment brings peace. It's a truth that might feel counterintuitive at first, especially in a world that often tells us to cling tightly to what we want. But the Stoics saw it differently. They believed that much of our suffering comes from holding on too tightly to people, outcomes, or even material things. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher, put it simply: if you wish to improve, be content to appear clueless or stupid in extraneous matters. Do not wish to be thought to know anything. What he's pointing to here is the freedom that comes when we stop tying our happiness to external things. Non-attachment, in the Stoic sense, isn't about indifference or apathy. It's about recognizing that true peace comes from within, not from what we possess or control. Let's break this down with a practical example. Imagine you're in a relationship that's become toxic. You've invested time, energy, and emotion into it, and the thought of letting go feels unbearable. But deep down, you know it's draining you, chipping away at your sense of self-worth and inner peace. The Stoic approach here isn't to ignore your feelings or pretend the relationship doesn't matter. It's to ask yourself, am I holding on because this relationship is truly serving me, or because I'm afraid of being alone? Non-attachment means releasing what no longer aligns with your well-being, even when it's hard. It's not about giving up, it's about choosing yourself. This principle extends beyond relationships. Think about the job you've been clinging to out of fear of the unknown, or the material possessions you've accumulated but no longer need. Non-attachment invites us to question why we hold onto these things. Is it because they bring us joy, or because we're afraid of what life might look like without them? The Stoic practice of non-attachment isn't about rejecting the world. It's about engaging with it from a place of inner freedom rather than dependency. So here's a question for you. What in your life might you need to detach from? It could be a habit, a relationship, or even an expectation that's weighing you down. Take a moment to reflect on what's truly serving you and what's holding you back. Non-attachment isn't about losing something. It's about gaining the clarity and peace that come when we stop clinging to what no longer serves us. And in that space, you'll find the freedom to live more fully, more authentically, and more at peace with yourself. How do you respond when life throws you a curveball? It's a question worth sitting with, because our reaction to adversity often defines not just the moment, but who we become in the long run. The Stoics had a unique perspective on this. They believed that resilience isn't something you're born with, it's something you build, one challenge at a time. Seneca, the great Stoic philosopher, put it this way: difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body. What he's pointing to here is the idea that every obstacle, every setback, is an opportunity to grow stronger, wiser, and more resilient. It's not about avoiding hardship, it's about learning to navigate it with grace and purpose. Let's bring this to life with an example. Imagine you've been working toward a goal for years. Maybe it's a career milestone, a personal project, or even a fitness target. And just as you're about to reach it, something happens to derail your progress. It could be a rejection, an injury, or an unexpected life event. In that moment, it's easy to feel defeated, to question whether all your effort was worth it. But here's the Stoic perspective. The setback isn't the end of the story, it's the beginning of a new chapter. How you respond to that moment, whether you choose to pick yourself up and keep going or let it define you, is what builds resilience. It's not the challenge itself that shapes you, it's how you face it. This doesn't mean you have to grin and bear it or pretend everything's fine when it's not. Resilience isn't about suppressing your emotions, it's about acknowledging them and then deciding how to move forward. Think of it like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. Every time you face a challenge head-on, every time you choose to keep going despite the odds, you're building that inner strength that will carry you through future trials. So here's a question to reflect on. How do you respond to adversity in your own life? Do you see it as a roadblock or as a stepping stone? The Stoic approach invites us to reframe our struggles, not as something to fear, but as something to learn from. Resilience isn't about never falling, it's about learning how to rise again and again. And the more you practice, the more you'll find that you're not just surviving life's challenges, you're thriving through them. Equanimity is the antidote to resentment. It's that steady, unshakable calm that allows us to face life's challenges without being swept away by anger or bitterness. The Stoics understood this deeply, and they saw equanimity not as a passive state, but as an active practice, a way of engaging with the world from a place of inner balance. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, captured it perfectly when he wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." What he's pointing to here is the simple yet transformative idea that we can't control what happens to us, but we can control how we respond. Equanimity is about choosing that response with intention, even when the world feels chaotic. Picture this: you're in the middle of an argument with someone you care about. Emotions are running high, words are flying, and it feels like everything is spiraling out of control. In that moment, resentment can easily take hold, fueled by anger, frustration, or the need to be right. But what if, instead of reacting, you paused? What if you took a deep breath and chose to respond with calmness and clarity? That's equanimity in action. It doesn't mean you ignore your feelings or let others walk all over you. It means you rise above the heat of the moment and respond from a place of strength, not reactivity. The Stoic practice of equanimity isn't about suppressing emotions, it's about mastering them. It's the ability to feel anger without lashing out, to feel hurt without shutting down, and to face unfairness without letting it define you. This takes practice, of course. It's not something you achieve overnight, but every time you choose calm over chaos, you're building that muscle of equanimity, and with it, a deeper sense of peace. So here's a challenge for you today. Think of a situation where you're likely to feel triggered. Maybe it's a difficult conversation, a frustrating commute, or even a moment of self-doubt. When that moment comes, pause, take a breath, remind yourself that you have the power to choose how you respond. Equanimity isn't about perfection, it's about progress. And every small step you take toward calm is a step away from resentment, toward the inner peace you deserve. How often do you speak out of anger or resentment? It's a question that might catch you off guard, but it's worth considering. Words once spoken can't be taken back. They have the power to heal or to hurt, to build bridges or burn them down. The Stoics understood this deeply, and they saw silence not as weakness but as strength. Seneca, the great Stoic philosopher, once wrote, "Silence is a lesson learned from the many sufferings of life." What he's pointing to here is the immense power of holding your tongue, especially in moments of emotional intensity. Silence, in the Stoic sense, isn't about avoiding conflict or suppressing your voice. It's about choosing when to speak and when to let stillness speak for you. Think about a time when you've been caught in the heat of an argument. Maybe you felt the urge to lash out, to prove your point, or to defend yourself. It's a natural reaction, but here's the thing: reactive speech often escalates tension rather than resolves it. The Stoic approach is to pause, to breathe, and to ask yourself, will my words add value here, or will they only fuel the fire? Silence in these moments becomes a shield, a way to protect your peace and prevent resentment from taking root. Let's take a practical example. Imagine you're in a group setting and someone starts gossiping about a colleague. It's tempting to join in, to share your own opinion, or even just nod along. But what if instead you chose silence? By not engaging, you're not just avoiding unnecessary drama, you're making a conscious choice to uphold your values. Silence, in this case, becomes a statement of integrity. It's not about being passive, it's about being intentional with your energy and attention. So, here's an invitation for you. Think about the moments in your life when silence might serve you better. Maybe it's during a heated debate when you're tempted to say something you'll regret. Or perhaps it's in a moment of frustration when words feel like the only way to release the pressure. Silence isn't about denying your feelings. It's about giving yourself the space to respond rather than react. It's a small but powerful practice that can transform not just your relationships, but your inner world as well. The next time you feel the urge to speak out of anger or resentment, pause, take a breath, ask yourself, what would silence look like here? Sometimes the most powerful words are the ones you don't say. Perspective shapes reality. It's a bold statement, but one that holds immense power, especially when it comes to releasing resentment. The Stoics believed that how we see the world, how we interpret events, challenges, and even the actions of others determines our emotional experience. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher, put it this way: it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. What he's pointing to here is the profound truth that our perspective isn't just a lens we look through, it's the very fabric of our reality. When we shift that lens, we change not just how we feel, but how we engage with the world around us. Consider this example. Imagine you've been passed over for a promotion at work. At first glance, it feels like a personal failure, a rejection that stings deeply. But what if, instead of seeing it as a setback, you viewed it as an opportunity? Maybe it's a chance to reevaluate your goals, to develop new skills, or even to explore a different path that aligns more closely with your passions. This isn't about sugarcoating the disappointment, it's about recognizing that every challenge carries the potential for growth. The Stoic approach is to ask, what can I learn from this? How can I use this experience to become stronger, wiser, or more resilient? By shifting your perspective, you transform resentment into a catalyst for positive change. Here's the challenge. Think about a situation in your life where resentment has taken hold. Maybe it's a conflict with a loved one, a disappointment at work, or even a regret from the past. Now ask yourself, how might I see this differently? What's another angle I haven't considered? Perspective isn't about denying your feelings, it's about expanding them. It's about stepping back and seeing the bigger picture, one where you're not a victim of circumstances, but an active participant in your own growth. The power of perspective is that it's always within your control. You can't always change what happens to you, but you can always change how you see it. And in that shift, you'll find not just freedom from resentment, but a deeper sense of peace and possibility. So, the next time life throws you a curveball, remember, the way you look at it can transform everything. What can you accept today that you've been resisting? It's a question that cuts right to the heart of one of Stoicism's most powerful practices, acceptance. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, once wrote, "Accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together, but do so with all your heart." These words remind us that acceptance isn't about resignation or giving up. It's about finding peace in what we can't control. It's about releasing the struggle against reality and embracing life exactly as it is, not as we wish it to be. Think about it. How much of our resentment comes from resisting what we can't change? Whether it's a health challenge, a missed opportunity, or even the actions of someone else, the more we fight against what's already happened, the more we feel stuck. But here's the thing, acceptance doesn't mean you stop caring or stop striving. It means you stop wasting energy on what's beyond your control and start focusing on what you can do right here, right now. Let's bring this to life with an example. Imagine you've been diagnosed with a chronic health condition. At first, you might feel anger, frustration, or even resentment. Why me? Why now? But the Stoic approach invites you to shift your focus from what you can't change to what you can. Maybe it's finding ways to manage your symptoms or using the experience to deepen your appreciation for the moments of health and vitality you do have. Acceptance isn't about pretending everything is fine. It's about facing reality with courage and finding ways to move forward, even when it's hard. So, here's a challenge for you. What's one thing in your life that you've been resisting? Maybe it's a situation at work, a relationship that's changed, or even a personal limitation. Take a moment to reflect. What would it look like to accept this, not as a defeat, but as an opportunity to grow? Acceptance isn't easy, but it's one of the most liberating choices you can make. It's not about giving up, it's about stepping into the freedom that comes when you stop fighting what you can't change and start embracing what's possible. Humor lightens the burden of resentment. It's a simple truth, but one that the Stoics understood deeply. They didn't see humor as a way to avoid serious matters, but as a tool to gain perspective and diffuse tension. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, once wrote, "The wise man can laugh at himself, for he knows that laughter is the shortest distance between two people." What he's pointing to here is the power of humor to break down walls, not just between people but within ourselves. When we can laugh at our own mistakes or misfortunes, we take away their power to hurt us. We step back and see the bigger picture, one where even the most frustrating moments can become a source of connection and lightness. Think about it. How often do you find yourself stewing over something that, in hindsight, feels a little ridiculous? Maybe it's the time you spilled coffee on your shirt right before an important meeting, or the moment you tripped over your own words in front of a crowd. In the moment, it feels like the end of the world. But later, when you look back, it's often the things you can laugh about that stick with you, not as sources of pain, but as stories that bring joy. That's the Stoic approach to humor. It's not about dismissing your feelings, but about finding a way to rise above them. Here's a practical example. Imagine you're running late for work, and just as you're about to leave, you realize you've locked your keys inside the house. It's frustrating, yes. But instead of letting that frustration turn into resentment toward yourself, toward the situation, toward the universe, what if you paused and laughed? Not because it's funny in the moment, but because you recognize that life has a way of throwing these curveballs, and sometimes the best response is to smile and roll with it. Humor, in this sense, becomes a form of resilience. It's a way to say, "I see you, life. You're not going to get the best of me today." So here's a challenge for you. Think about a situation that's been frustrating you lately. Maybe it's a traffic jam, a miscommunication with a friend, or even a small mistake at work. Instead of letting it weigh you down, try to find the humor in it. What's one thing about the situation that you can laugh at or see in a different light? It doesn't mean you ignore the seriousness of what's happening. It just means you're choosing not to let it define your day. Humor in the Stoic tradition is a bridge not just to others but to your own peace. It's a reminder that life doesn't always have to be so heavy, that even in the midst of challenges there's room for lightness. So the next time resentment starts to creep in, ask yourself, how might humor change the way I see this? You might just find that a little laughter goes a long way. How much of your resentment comes from wanting more? It's a question that might make you pause, and for good reason. So often, the things we crave, more money, more recognition, more possessions, don't just leave us feeling unsatisfied. They can also breed resentment when we don't get them. The Stoics had a profound answer to this: simplicity. They believed that by stripping away the excess, by focusing on what truly matters, we can reduce not just our desires, but the resentment that often follows when those desires go unmet. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher, put it this way: wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. What he's pointing to here is the freedom that comes when we stop chasing after more and start appreciating what we already have. Let's bring this idea to life with a practical example. Imagine your home is filled with clutter, old clothes you never wear, gadgets you rarely use, and stacks of papers you've been meaning to sort through. Every time you look at it, you feel a pang of stress, maybe even resentment toward yourself for letting it pile up. But what if, instead of adding to the chaos, you decided to simplify? What if you took the time to declutter, to let go of what you no longer need? This isn't just about creating physical space, it's about creating mental and emotional space too. When you clear away the excess, you're left with what truly matters, and that's where peace begins. Minimalism, in the Stoic sense, isn't about living with nothing, it's about living with intention. It's about asking yourself, what do I truly need to live a meaningful life? By focusing on that question, you take away the power of external things to define your happiness. You stop comparing yourself to others, stop chasing after what you think you should want, and start appreciating what you already have. And in that shift, resentment loses its grip. So here's a challenge for you. Take a moment to reflect on your own life. Are there areas where you're holding onto more than you need, whether it's physical clutter, emotional baggage, or even unrealistic expectations? What might it feel like to let go of some of that weight? Minimalism isn't about deprivation, it's about liberation. It's about making room for what truly matters, so you can live with greater clarity, purpose, and peace. Patience is the bridge to peace. It's not just a virtue, it's a practice, one that the Stoics saw as essential for navigating life's inevitable frustrations. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, once wrote, "Bear in mind that the measure of a man is the worth of the things he cares about." What he's pointing to here is the idea that patience isn't just about waiting, it's about how we choose to engage with the world while we wait. When we cultivate patience, we're not just biding our time, we're actively shaping our mindset, choosing calm over chaos and finding peace in the process. Think about the last time you had to wait for something. Maybe it was a delayed flight, a long line at the grocery store, or even a response to an important email. In those moments, it's easy to feel frustration bubbling up, to let impatience turn into resentment. But here's the Stoic perspective. That delay, that inconvenience, isn't just a test of your time. It's an opportunity to practice patience. Instead of focusing on what you can't control, the flight schedule, the slow-moving line, you can shift your attention to what you can control, your reaction. You can choose to breathe, to reflect, or even to find a moment of stillness in the midst of the chaos. That's the power of patience. It transforms waiting from a source of stress into a space for peace. Let's bring this to life with an example. Imagine you're stuck in traffic on your way to an important meeting. Your first instinct might be to honk, to grip the steering wheel tighter, or to curse the universe for the delay. But what if instead you used that time to listen to an inspiring podcast, to reflect on your goals for the day, or simply to enjoy the quiet? It's not about pretending the situation is ideal, it's about making the most of it. That's what patience looks like in action. It's not passive acceptance, but active engagement with the present moment. So, here's a question for you. Where in your life could patience help ease your resentments? Maybe it's in a relationship where you feel unheard, or in a project that's taking longer than expected. Take a moment to consider how patience might change the way you approach these challenges. Patience isn't just about waiting, it's about choosing to see the bigger picture, to find meaning in the pause, and to embrace the journey, even when it's slow. And in that shift, you'll find not just peace, but a deeper sense of resilience and strength. How can compassion transform your resentments? It's a question that might feel counterintuitive at first, especially when resentment often feels like a shield, a way to protect ourselves from being hurt again. But the Stoics offer a different perspective. Compassion isn't just for others, it's a gift we give ourselves. Seneca, the great Stoic thinker, once wrote, "The wise man neither seeks nor avoids pity, but he is ready to give it to others." What he's pointing to here is the power of compassion to dissolve the walls we build around our hearts. When we choose to see others and ourselves through the lens of understanding rather than judgment, we open the door to healing and connection. Let's bring this to life with an example. Imagine someone you care about has hurt you deeply. Maybe they betrayed your trust or said something unkind. It's natural to feel anger, to want to pull away or even retaliate. But what if, instead of letting that resentment take root, you paused and asked, what might they be going through? Maybe they're struggling with their own pain, their own fears, or their own insecurities. This doesn't excuse their behavior, but it helps you see them as human rather than as a source of your pain. Compassion, in this sense, becomes a bridge not just to them, but to your own peace. Here's the beautiful part. Compassion doesn't mean you ignore your feelings or let others off the hook for harmful actions. It means you approach the situation with a sense of understanding rather than anger. It's about recognizing that everyone is fighting their own battles, and that includes you. When you extend compassion to others, you're also giving yourself permission to let go of the weight of resentment. It's not about forgetting or reconciling, it's about freeing yourself from the grip of bitterness. So, here's a challenge for you. Think about a situation where you felt wronged or hurt. Instead of replaying the pain in your mind, try to step into the other person's shoes for a moment. What might they be going through? What fears or struggles could be shaping their behavior? By choosing compassion, you're not just easing their burden, you're lightening your own. It's a practice that invites healing, not just for them, but for you. Compassion in the Stoic tradition is a choice, a way to rise above the pain and see the humanity in others, even when it's hard. And in that choice, you'll find not just freedom from resentment, but a deeper sense of connection and peace. So, how might compassion change the way you see your relationships? The answer might just surprise you. Discipline frees you from resentment. At first, that might sound contradictory after all. Discipline often feels like restriction, like saying no to impulses or desires. But in the Stoic tradition, discipline is anything but limiting. It's the key to true freedom, the kind that comes from mastering your thoughts and actions rather than being ruled by them. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher, put it this way: no man is free who is not master of himself. What he's pointing to here is the profound connection between self-discipline and inner peace. When you cultivate discipline, you're not just following rules, you're creating a life where resentment has no room to grow. Think about it. Resentment often arises when we feel out of control, when emotions like anger or frustration take the wheel and steer us in directions we don't want to go. Discipline, in the Stoic sense, is about taking back that control. It's about choosing how to respond to life's challenges rather than reacting impulsively. This doesn't mean you suppress your feelings or pretend everything is fine. It means you approach your emotions with intention, acknowledging them without letting them dictate your actions. Let's bring this to life with a practical example. Imagine you've made a commitment to a daily routine. Maybe it's a morning meditation, a workout, or even a simple habit like journaling. At first, it feels easy, but then life gets busy or you hit a rough patch and suddenly sticking to that routine feels like a burden. It's in those moments that discipline becomes your ally. It's not about forcing yourself to do something you don't want to do. It's about remembering why you started in the first place. When you show up for that routine, even when it's hard, you're not just building a habit, you're building resilience. And with that resilience comes a deeper sense of peace, one that isn't easily shaken by external circumstances. So, here's a question to consider. How could discipline improve your inner peace? Maybe it's by setting boundaries with your time, by practicing mindfulness when emotions run high, or by committing to small, daily actions that align with your values. Discipline isn't about perfection, it's about progress. It's about showing up for yourself even when it's difficult, and in doing so, creating a life where resentment has no place to thrive. When you embrace discipline, you're not just following a path, you're paving one that leads to freedom, strength, and lasting peace. What are you holding onto that no longer serves you? It's a question that can feel uncomfortable to sit with, but it's one of the most powerful tools for cultivating inner peace. The Stoics believed that much of our suffering comes from clinging to what's already past, whether it's a past hurt, a missed opportunity, or a grudge we've carried for years. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, offered a simple yet profound reminder: the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. In other words, the very things we resist, our pain, our struggles, our attachments, can become the path to freedom if we're willing to let them go. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting or pretending the past didn't happen. It's about releasing the emotional weight that keeps us tethered to what we can't change. Think about an old wound you've been carrying. Maybe it's a betrayal from a friend or a failure that still haunts you. Holding on to it might feel like a way to protect yourself, to avoid being hurt again. But here's the truth: that grip often hurts you more than anyone else. It keeps you stuck in a cycle of resentment, replaying the past instead of living fully in the present. The Stoic practice of letting go invites you to break that cycle, not by erasing the memory, but by choosing to no longer let it define you. Here's an example to bring this to life. Imagine you've been holding onto anger towards someone who wronged you years ago. Every time you think about it, you feel that familiar tension in your chest, that knot of bitterness that refuses to loosen. But what if, instead of replaying the hurt, you chose to release it, not because they deserve your forgiveness, but because you deserve peace? Letting go isn't about them, it's about you. It's about saying, I won't let this moment from the past control my present any longer. So, take a moment to reflect. What's one thing you've been holding onto that's no longer serving you? It could be a grudge, a regret, or even an expectation that's keeping you stuck. What would it feel like to loosen your grip, even just a little? Letting go isn't a one-time event. It's a practice, a daily choice to release what no longer aligns with your well-being. And with each small act of release, you'll find yourself stepping closer to the freedom and peace you deserve. The past doesn't have to define your future. Only you can decide what you carry forward. You always have a choice in how you respond. This simple yet profound truth lies at the heart of Stoic philosophy, and it's one of the most empowering ideas you can embrace. Seneca, the great Stoic thinker, put it this way: it is not because things are difficult that we do not dare, it is because we do not dare that they are difficult. What he's pointing to here is the immense power we hold in our hands, the power to choose our response, no matter what life throws at us. It's not the events themselves that define us, but how we decide to meet them. Think about it. When someone cuts you off in traffic, you have a choice. You can let anger take over, honking and shouting, or you can take a deep breath and let it go. When a colleague criticizes your work, you can react defensively, or you can pause and consider whether there's a kernel of truth in their feedback. These moments, big and small, are opportunities to exercise your power of choice. And every time you choose calm over chaos, understanding over judgment, or growth over resentment, you're not just shaping your day, you're shaping your life. Here's a practical example to bring this to life. Imagine you're in a heated argument with someone you care about. Emotions are running high, and it feels like every word is escalating the tension. In that moment, you have a choice. You can let your frustration dictate your words, or you can take a step back, breathe, and respond with intention. It's not about suppressing your feelings, it's about choosing how to express them. That's the Stoic approach to choice. It's not about ignoring the situation, but about deciding how you want to show up in it. So, here's a question to reflect on. How are your choices shaping your resentments? Are you reacting impulsively, letting anger or bitterness take the lead? Or are you pausing, considering your options, and choosing the response that aligns with your values? Every choice you make is a step toward either reinforcing resentment or releasing it. And the beauty of it is, no matter what's happened in the past, you always have the power to choose differently in the present. The power of choice is your greatest tool for transformation. It's not about controlling the world around you, but about mastering the world within you. And when you embrace that power, you'll find that resentment doesn't stand a chance. The next time you face a challenging moment, remember, the choice is yours. What will you choose? How often are you fully present in your life? Not just physically there, but mentally and emotionally engaged in the moment. It's a question worth sitting with, because so much of our resentment builds when we're stuck in the past, replaying old hurts, reliving arguments, or imagining how things should have been. The Stoics understood this deeply, and they saw mindfulness not as a modern buzzword, but as a timeless practice for cultivating inner peace. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher, once wrote, "We are not disturbed by things, but by the views we take of them." What he's pointing to here is the power of presence, the ability to observe our thoughts and emotions without being swept away by them. Mindfulness, in the Stoic sense, is about grounding ourselves in the here and now, so we can respond to life's challenges with clarity and calm. Let's bring this to life with a practical example. Imagine you're in the middle of a stressful day, maybe work is piling up, or you've just had a difficult conversation. Your mind starts racing, replaying what went wrong or worrying about what's next. In that moment, resentment can easily take hold, fueled by frustration or anxiety. But what if, instead of letting your thoughts spiral, you paused and took a few mindful breaths? Close your eyes, feel the air moving in and out of your lungs, and bring your attention back to the present. It's not about fixing the situation immediately. It's about creating a small space of calm where you can think clearly and respond intentionally. That's the essence of Stoic mindfulness. It's a tool for reclaiming your peace, one breath at a time. So here's a challenge for you today. Set aside 5 minutes to practice mindfulness. It doesn't have to be complicated. You could sit quietly and focus on your breath, or take a short walk and pay attention to the sights and sounds around you. The goal isn't to empty your mind or achieve some perfect state of Zen. It's simply to notice where you are, right here, right now. When you practice mindfulness, you're not just releasing resentment, you're building a stronger, more resilient connection to your own inner world. Mindfulness in the Stoic tradition is more than a practice, it's a way of living. It's about choosing presence over distraction, clarity over chaos, and peace over resentment. So, the next time you feel the weight of the past pulling you down, remember, you have the power to come back to the present, and in that space you'll find the freedom to live more fully, more intentionally, and more at peace with yourself. As we come to the end of this journey through the 26 Stoic approaches to releasing resentment and reclaiming inner peace, it's worth taking a moment to reflect on the collective power of these principles. Each one, from understanding the dichotomy of control to practicing gratitude, from embracing impermanence to cultivating empathy, is a tool, a practical, timeless guide for navigating the complexities of life. Together, they form a roadmap not just for managing emotions but for transforming them. Stoicism, at its core, isn't about suppressing what we feel. It's about understanding it, mastering it, and ultimately rising above it. These aren't just ancient ideas, they're tools designed for the here and now, for the challenges we face in our modern, fast-paced world. Consider this: resentment, as painful as it is often a mirror. It reflects where we feel powerless, where we've tied our happiness to things outside our control, or where we've allowed our expectations to cloud our perspective. The beauty of Stoicism is that it doesn't ask us to ignore these feelings. Instead, it invites us to examine them, to question them, and to choose how we respond. And in that choice lies our freedom. Whether it's through the practice of mindfulness, the act of forgiveness, or the discipline of letting go, each approach we've explored offers a way to step out of the shadow of resentment and into the light of peace. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." These words remind us that our inner world shapes our outer reality. When we fill our minds with gratitude, presence, and understanding, resentment has no room to grow. When we focus on what we can control, our actions, our attitudes, and our choices, we reclaim the power that resentment tries to steal from us. Stoicism isn't a quick fix, it's a way of life. It's about building resilience, one thought, one decision, one moment at a time. So, as we close this chapter, I want to leave you with a question. Which of these 26 approaches resonates most with you right now? Is it the practice of cognitive reframing, the power of gratitude, or perhaps the courage to forgive? Whatever it is, take a moment to reflect on how you can bring it into your daily life. Start small. Maybe it's pausing to notice the good in your day, or choosing to let go of a grudge that's been weighing you down. Remember, the journey to inner peace isn't about perfection, it's about progress. Before we go, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Which Stoic principle spoke to you the most? How do you plan to apply it in your own life? Share your reflections in the comments below. I'd love to continue this conversation with you. And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to subscribe for more insights on living a life of clarity, purpose, and peace. Together, let's take these timeless lessons and make them our own, one step at a time. Thank you for joining me on this journey, and remember, the power to transform your life is always within you.